So good afternoon. My name is Charlette N'Guessan. I have a francophone accent because I'm originally from Ivory Coast, so sorry for the accent. And I'm the lead of data solution and ecosystem at Amini. So Amini is a deep tech company. We are based in Nairobi, and our mission is to solve environmental data scarcity in Africa using space technology and artificial intelligence. The key question is why Africa? Okay. Yeah. Here is the state of Africa, and a lesser known statistic is that Africa currently exports more than $40 billion worth of food product to the rest of the world. And we know that 70% of Africans rely on agriculture for their livelihood. Unfortunately, due to the global climate crisis, Africa is facing a lot of challenges. For instance, right now we have recorded that Africa is warming more faster than the global average, leading to more events or frequent events about weather events. So this is actually also we can use this data to show that there is 15,000 people who were killed in 2023, and more than 34 million of people who have been affected by these disasters. So the climate crisis actually is affecting Africa, but not just the no standard lands, everything, but it's from all the natural capital of Africa, like from water and land to crops. So we also note that in Africa we have approximately, let's say, each year, a lot of forests that have been lost because of the deforestation, like millions of hectares lost annually. And this is important to mention that because it shows that how it's critical in Africa in terms of climate. So aside that fact, there is something that at Amini we identify is about data. We noticed that in Africa the data is quite inexisting, I mean it's hard to have access to data. And we wanted to first address the challenge by facing the Africa data gap. So we built an AI, okay, it's fine. We built an AI-powered environmental data platform that aggregates granular data from different sources. I mean, satellite, IoT, drones, even direct ground data collection into a secure single one platform. And then these data automatically unify, process, analyze to generate actionable insight for climate. So some of the insight we generate are weather data, soil data, Earth observation data, and more. At Amini, we believe that even the best data holds no value if it's not used, right? So for that, we quantify our impact through different verticals. So we empower farmers, we farm insights to be able to, for yield prediction, for land productivity, as well for smart and sustainable farming. We also equip large corporates like global companies such as FMB, Food and Beverage Company, to be able to use accurate data to have some transparency on the supply chain and to ensure that the commodity they source from Africa is actually from deforested free lands. Aside that, we also work with financial institution and insurance company, making sure that they are able to build some products on top of our data. And this product is actually around, crop insurance risk assessment, as well credit scoring for the farmers. This is a way for us to making sure that farmers have access to loans and to improve that economic resilience into farming. So at Amini, let's say that if you need to keep in mind about us, just remember that we ensure that accurate data, environmental data, is accessible, easily accessible, and easily digestible to everyone. So if you are working in the space, you are looking at, making some impact, contributing to the global climate agenda, we are welcome you guys because we open a lot of partnership, and we can work together and making sure that we move the agenda forward. So thank you.
Thank you very much,
I
Charlette.
hope it's just that 10 minutes.
Yeah, no, it was very good in terms of timing. I have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
As a data-driven business, obviously you need to ensure that you have good quality of data accuracy. How do you ensure that you have good data from satellites, from IoT sensors? There's actually quite a lot of data, right, that you're using and you're gathering. And how do you ensure that you have good standards now when it comes to validating such data?
Yeah, that's really a good question, because even when we say that data is in Africa, is not. There is data. We always produce data, whatever we are doing. Farmers, they produce data. The challenge was like the data wasn't accurate, it wasn't accessible, and that's what we are solving. We are putting the data together. So when we use satellite data, we collect satellite data, but we use as well ground data directly from farmers through survey and other platform to calibrate the data we have. And internally, we have developed some methodology for data validation, more like a data standard. And right now we have a different methodology that is working for us, but we are looking at pushing public, maybe one of, let's say, the one who works the best to make it as a standard for Africa, because we want as well to make sure that the ecosystem we are building in your own data is not just Amini. We are bringing more people on board, making sure they have access to how they can validate the data, how they can make sure that the data is accurate and useful for different vertical use cases. Yeah.
Because you're already collaborating with other companies. For example,
yes.
The IoT devices are operated by a company in the food value chain, or it can be an agribusiness. So you're also already able to get this data from your partners. So partnership is quite
exactly.
Quite
we rely on a lot of partnership because collaboration is key. So if you are, let's say you are a startup, you are based in Ivory Coast, for example, and you collect, you use drone for data collection, we can work with you as well. So it's just like you don't have to rebuild everything from scratch. We just identify what is happening on the market, what is missing, and how we can connect the dot between different partners and making sure that that data is available for climate action, for building some products on top of that.
Fantastic, thank you. Is there any question from the room? Anyone has a question from Charlette? There you go, Philippe, over to you.
Talking about partnership, have you been able to partner with MNOs, or if not, do you see a lot of barriers to partner with MNOs?
Yes, in terms of MNOs, basically it's more like, you mean telco companies, right? It's be more for when we want to empower farmers, maybe sending insight to some USD, some phone call, IV, it's depend. So far, we are talking with some partners in Kenya, some telco companies, but right now we also have some organization that part of our partner, and I already have that partnership with other telco companies. So we plan as well to emphasize on that and also use that channel to engage with some farmers in the field. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Charlette.
You are welcome.
So we're now going to have our second lightning talk of this session. So this time we're going to hear from Digital Green. So Digital Green is a very interesting company. It's a social enterprise. So we're going to hear a slightly different perspective because they are a co-creator, let's say, or a user of a solution. In this case, a Gen AI solution. You've been hearing a lot about Gen AI, as I'm sure at this event and elsewhere. So Digital Green have been using videos and technology to provide agri-extension services for a while, for a few years, in very innovative ways, really to scale up the provision of agronomic advisory to farmers, to government agents, extension officers that are supporting farmers in their day-to-day role and job. And last year, they actually partnered with ChatGPT. They worked with OpenAI using ChatGPT and a company called GUI AI to develop and tweak the model to actually provide these highly localized contextual advisory services to farmers and other stakeholders in agricultural value chains. They've been doing this in Kenya. They've been also working in India and in Ethiopia. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you Beryl Agengo, who is the country manager for Kenya, who's going to tell us everything about what they're doing with generative AI in the agri sector. Over to you.
Afternoon, everyone. So my name is Beryl Agengo, and yes, we've gotten ChatGPT in Africa. And the assumption that Africans don't have smartphones is also almost a myth. connectivity is our issue on the ground. We are still struggling with 5G in the ground. You won't find it. You'll find 4G and 3G. But we're doing something. We've started small, and we are trying to make sure that we can scale up. So everyone in the telco, there's a gap that we are willing to work with you to help you fill. So here's an example of how the chatbot actually looks like and how it works. It is in local dialect. We have the English version because we also have extension officers and lead farmers or farmer promoters who actually want to ask their questions in English and get their responses in English. Yes, there's a version. You can switch languages when you want. So you can move to Kiswahili, local dialect, to Kikuyu, which is indigenous local dialect, and get your response back in the local dialect, both in voice and in or written. This we are also doing same thing in India and in Ethiopia. So if you're in India or interested in working in India or Ethiopia, you'll find the same chatbot. Digital Green, as Daniela said, we used to develop videos for extension services, and it's something Digital Green has perfected. Extension officers just want to be reminded how the agronomical work needs to be done, but the farmers rely on these videos to show what is on the, like, show me with somebody who will speak my language, my accent, so that I understand. The videos are on YouTube. COVID came, but then we realized that we needed to change a few things. So we have the chatbot now. They can ask the questions because they want the answers now. And then there's a link to the answer that can take you to a YouTube video if that's what you want, or you just read the text and go ahead. So we're making it easier to, you don't have to wait to get home to get to the YouTube. The answer is now, and it's on your phone. So what do the farmers actually want? What are we trying to solve? Reliable, targeted, timely. Each time you talk with them, they say they have the question, they want the solution now. They have the smartphone. Now what do we do? Our challenge has been that the solution is on Telegram. We are moving it to WhatsApp, then an app. They are happy with Telegram, so we're trying to improve as we go. But Telegram has also enabled us to try a few things, a few modules as you go. So again, we are doing this via agents, people we've worked with that we know. We are working with extension officers who are government officials, and then they support farmer promoters. So we have two layers. The extension officers, they are scarce in Africa. They're worse off, they're scarce in Kenya. You'll find one extension officer supports approximately 1,000 or 2,000 farmers, like really scarce. So each time they're called, help me with this, the easiest way is ChatGPT, ask the question right. We are calling it farmer chat. They ask the question, they get the answer, but they still need to go around and solve the problems. So again, extension officers ask the questions, text, voice. The features on the chatbot include farmer profiling, which helps now with what you're saying, data collection. The data is there, but how do we do the groundwork and make sure it is almost digitized or automated from the word go? They can do the farmer profiling for us. There's content advisory, there's targeted advisory, and then our key partners have been the county government, so the district officers. So government, that's who we produce our product for. We work with GUI, OpenAI, GIZ, and BMGF. Use cases from the field, self-guided learning. So they will go back and start asking those questions that they may have forgotten. So they don't, so one model is, do they use the chatbot in the evening, and it's a lot of continuous questions, or one-to-one farmer support where the extension officer will sit down a group of farmers, train them, then when they start asking the questions and he doesn't remember, he'll just ask the chatbot. Group facilitation is the same thing. Ask the questions in the group, train the group to actually use the chatbot so that the work is actually with the farmers and they can answer directly. Again, there's the extension officers who do one-to-one farmer work. Sorry, we have trained in person 4,341 extension officers. We started in October. Those who have logged into the system continuously are 3,426, which is 90% of our users. We have users who logged on once, and then churned means in the last 45 days, they've asked at least, so we have a matrix. We are saying 10 questions. So in the last 45 days, have they clocked the 10 questions? Those are churned users. Monthly Active users are 54%, which is our half KPI. We've met 50%. It is 10 questions monthly from our overall number of 3426, and then weekly active is 30%, and this varies because for those who know Kenya, when it gets to December and half of January, we go on holiday. Literally the way what happens in Augusta, we close down, we don't farm, but it's also not our rainy season, which is the period we wanted because we were getting the product into the market. Then now we start the short rains in January, then we see now they have the product, then what changes? And that's what we tried. We've had over 51,000 queries sent to the bot and gotten back. We have a matrix of thumbs up, thumbs down. If you don't like the product, just say. If you don't like the answer, thumbs down, right? Then on the back end, we get to improve the same. So last slide. We have the same thing in India. We have the same thing in Ethiopia. And Ethiopia, their challenge is not like ours. They have the extension officers. They have the field force, which we don't have, but they're also using the chatbot. In India, same thing. They have the extension officers. They've had a lot of digital solution, so their model is slightly different. They're giving the chatbot directly to the farmers, while we are focusing on the upper tier, which is the extension officers and the lead farmers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Beryl. It's really interesting to hear the work that you're doing and how Gen AI can be used to scale up advisory services. A question maybe similar to the question that I asked to Charlette is about data. Again, where does the data come from? If you can articulate that a little bit more. You obviously rely on partnerships with governments as well. And I also wanted to ask you a follow-up on skills. In the sense that to use these kind of solutions, you need to upskill at different levels within the organization. And then you also have the agents, the extension officers, and the farmers, right? For example, in India, where it's going directly to farmers. So if you could explain a little bit how that happens and what the challenges might be, that would be great.
We are looking for content, and we are willing to work with anyone who has incredible content. It's like ChatGPT. You ask some kind of question, it will give you some kind of answer. We have narrowed our content so that, and the farmers do try it. What is the nearest medical center to where I am? The bot will reply, this is out of my scope. So we've closed it to only the content that we feed it. So our content must be reliable. We are working with CGIR, we are working with government, we are working with, in Kenya, we're working with Calro, who have a lot of research information that has been curated, tested. We've gotten their PDFs, converted them into the LLM, same model like Shad, so that it is now easily accessible. But when you talk about skills, we realize that we gave them the bot, but what type of questions were they asking? How do I improve my coffee? Vague question, right? It's ChatGPT. The question must be a smart question, which is why we are focusing on the physical training as we start. And then when we have a group of TOTs, then we scale down. It must be what type of coffee variety, insert variety, that you want to improve. Is it rainy season or dry season? Must be a smart question. So it's not just the farmers that we are training, we had to upskill as well. How do I get to ChatGPT and ask a smart question? So even for me, it was take a step back, attend a few hours of how do you use AI to improve the questions you ask. That then trickles down to when we train them on the field, how do we enable them to ask the smart question to get the right answer?
It's two levels. So you're fine-tuning the model at one level, which is really important, using a big global model like ChatGPT, but fine-tuning it with local contextual data, but also at the same time working on the skills level to make sure that users can use it and ask the questions. Let
me give you the most ridiculous example. A farmer says, I know how this beans is called. I know it in my mother tongue. I know how to tell the extension officer exactly what I want, but nobody knows how it's called in English. So even for us, our learning has been, how do we take the seeds, the pests, the diseases that are known in local indigenous and teach ChatGPT that if somebody says this is what it means, right?
Makes sense. Thank you. We can get one question, if there is a question from the audience.
Thanks. Mine is really about the user experience, because at some point you gave an example of a question and then getting a link to an article or something that they can download. Do you see that as a barrier in terms of the cost of data, in terms of using the application? Because I think you just spoke to the devices, but I'm also interested in, can people actually afford it?
So data costs are getting lower and lower, and we tell them that it's going to affect your cost. But what we've seen very different is for those who actually click the links to go to, like now YouTube, to find the videos, are the young generation, the under 30s. They will get to YouTube, they will get distracted. So we are talking with somebody like Safaricom to say, for our app, can you give them bundles, like data, just for our app, but when they go to an external link, then do they have data or not, so that they can keep using the bot with our restricted data. But if you go to another link, or if you get outside the app, then you really don't have bundles. We're trying to fix it. It's not perfect, but for now it's working. And the young people will like TikTok. They're asking for TikTok.
I've been offered a second question. I think what you say about customer education is extremely important, also because it busts a myth that suddenly you put AI out and it's available around the world in all the languages and so on. There's another myth around the easiness of replication. So my question to you is, like, you've done it in Kenya, you've done it in India. If you want to launch it in Côte d'Ivoire tomorrow, different language, different crops, different soil, different everything, how easy is it to replicate?
If we get the right content, if we get our glossary right for everything indigenous, then maybe 4 months max. Yeah. You're welcome.
Okay, we're running out of time, but thank you very much.